standing himself up before the match because they were asking him, are you going to overthink this one? And he was joking about, well, yeah, I might play maybe a right wing or a left back or something, and, you know, all of that. But I think it always comes from the top. And I think that he has drilled his players to be focused he knew what to expect. Yeah. He knows all about Simeone. Even after the press conference where our colleagues at one of the other channels was interviewing Pep Guardiola, and said, what do you think about that? And Pep says, nothing to say. Yeah. And in the press conference, Simeone says, there are some people with larger vocabularies who insult you by not saying anything. Like, where do you go with that?
But that is very much in Simeone's bag of tricks, isn't it? That thing of, you're damned if you do, you're damned if you don't. If he'd said anything critical, Simeone would have taken offence. If he says nothing at all, he says, they're not even worth talking about.
With Simeone and with his squad, they often find a way to win. They won the Spanish title last season, a couple of seasons ago. And as far as they are concerned, they don't have the technical abilities and they don't have the resource of some of the other clubs, but what they have is that invincible spirit. They're all like-minded players who all buy into the Simeone philosophy. But I think what Guardiola has done with his squad, I think is so superb, because I think other English clubs would have reacted last night to what they were subjected to. And instead, as you say, they played them at their own game. They showed that focus. They showed that intensity. They had one shot on target, unheard of for a City side so far this season. But that's because they dug in. And often we say, don't we, with teams who can play fantastic football, can they win ugly? And they won that time ugly, and that was what was
I don't think, Kels, like now, you have to say, with the running to the Premier League, you have to put City as favourites simply because of that experience, because they are not going to come up against that kind of intensity in any game in the Premier League where they can go to that
Actually,
place.
when you play in a game like that, when you're playing a game like that, and you're all as a club, as a team, involved in not just the bad blood on the pitch, but also off it. We saw some of the footage in the tunnel as well. Does it bring the squad together in terms of wanting to fight for each other?
Because, and you'll know, Jay, one thing that happens, no matter how you are together as a team, if you've got even one of your teammates, you might not get on with him very well, but if you're on the pitch in a game like that and somebody does something to him, your natural reaction is to protect him. Yeah. And then when everybody sees that everybody goes in, you know you're together. If you see a couple of players going in, a couple of players over there not getting involved, that's not a team that's together. But when that kind of situation happens, everybody's all in, because what you want to make sure is that we're all going to be punished together, or we're all going to not be punished together. So you all fly in. You can see with the Arsenal days, everybody flew in. It was something that you knew was going to happen. So it's the kind of thing that does bring you together tighter. And like the point I was going to say with Man City, this will stand them in good stead for any game they're going to play from now on. From now on.
Because there's two ways of looking at it. One is that they've just had a really draining week on all kinds of levels. They've got an FA Cup semi-final coming up against their title rivals on Saturday as well.
Great timing.
Yeah, you could ask, is it going to take some of that energy, that momentum from them? But you're saying the opposite, that actually it can fuel the fire.
It might give them momentum, because what we'll look back on in this moment, especially if City do go on to, whether they win the league or the Champions League, and this little period here is what we'll talk about when City, and what the players in years to come will talk about getting through this period. And this is the period that people will want to be talking about with them, because Liverpool, the 2-2, then Atletico, and then, the semi-final of the FA Cup. This is what you're playing for. This is where you get the experience of big games. When people talking about he's got big game experience, these are the moments you get it in. And this is why I was really excited watching that the other day.
The only problem for City is that Walker and De Bruyne went off injured in this game, which we don't know the extent of those injuries. We don't know how long they're going to be out, if they're even going to miss a game for Manchester City. But Walker's particularly looked quite worrying, didn't it? Yeah,
it did. And you do worry for him, because he's the kind of player under Pep, Kyle Walker, that he doesn't have to worry about anything with Kyle Walker playing there. He could just leave that to get on with it, because Kyle Walker will deal with that. So there's no one else in the team that plays like he can play for them. So that's going to be a big miss. Obviously, Kevin De Bruyne, we've seen that they have been able to, in patches, play and continue to win without Kevin De Bruyne. So you're hoping for City's sake that it's not too long, simply because they're integral to what Pep does. So you're just hoping that, fingers crossed, this stage of the season, these kind of questions are asked, you're hoping that they're fit enough.
Is it Walker who would be the player who'd be most difficult to replace directly? Because although De Bruyne is a generational talent, there are players at City who can pretty much do what he does, if not to the same levels. There's not much in it, but Kyle Walker's a more unique person at Manchester City.
I would say so. I'm a huge admirer of Kyle Walker. The pace, the power, the positional sense. Sometimes he gets a little bit wrong, but he's got the pace to get himself out of those sticky situations. And you can see whenever he's fit, Pep trusts him to play. You know, he was extremely frustrated when Kyle Walker got sent off. Was it in one of the earlier rounds in the Champions League? You could see the frustration because now he has to think about who he's going to put in there and why he's going to put them there. And if he puts somebody else in that right back position, he's going to have to change who plays right wing back or whatnot. So when Kyle's in there, he doesn't have to worry. That's a pressure off his shoulders. With Kevin De Bruyne in the midfield, he's a huge loss, a huge miss. Don't get me wrong, because he's a phenomenal talent. But then you could bring Phil Foden and put him in the middle of the field and put Raheem Sterling back out on the left wing. So there are key players, technically incredible players that you could put in those positions to help out. But the one that I think Pep would be the most frustrated about would be Kyle. Yeah,
like I said, we're still waiting to hear what the extent of those injuries are and how much they could impact. But it would be a shame if that was what it was, particularly with Diaz out, and we're not quite sure on return date for him as well. But it's going to be. It would be a shame if it came down to injuries in what's going to be this classic battle. Yeah,
absolutely. I mean, they build up deep squads precisely for these stage of the season so they can bring in quality. But it would be a shame if we were robbed of the players whose ability to step up, we've seen time and again, actually means at this stage of the season is tailor-made for them. I think what he might do with Kyle Walker is maybe bring Joao Cancelo over to the right, maybe play Zinchenko at left back. Zinchenko's never let him down with his ability to step into midfield as well as perform that left back
function. Can't do that for the first leg of the semi-final because Cancelo's going to be out.
Well, indeed, and that's going to be the issue that he's going to have to wrestle with. I think Stones perhaps can play right back, although that wouldn't be far from ideal.
He did that last night, didn't he?
Aki can play right back as well. I mean, as you were saying, he does have options, but none of them are Kyle Walker. I remember covering Spurs when Kyle Walker was there. When Kyle Walker was at Spurs, as Spurs will regret to this day, they'll have a lot of regrets about players that let slip through their fingers, but they simply didn't want him, and they allowed him to go to City, and he's become such a better defender. He's had more awareness. His speed he's always had, and his ability to deal with top-class talent down that right-hand side is outstanding. I think he's one of England's best right-backs.
Yeah, but he might be missing for Manchester City, depending on how recovery from that injury goes. So while Manchester City were duking it out against Atletico Madrid at the Wanda Metropolitano, Liverpool's Champions League tie was a very chaotic affair against Villarreal. Here's Jurgen Klopp.
Never happen. I take something like this for granted. I'm really happy. It's an incredibly busy period. Some of the boys didn't play for a while, 90 minutes, so that's then the next step. And all of you think, we are human beings, we are like this, you think, okay, job done. And Benfica was still on fire. And I respect that a lot. They scored really good goals. It's not that easy against us. It should not be that easy as it was tonight. But Benfica deserved the 3 goals, so that's how it is. And of course, we could have scored more. That's clear in other situations. But I'm really happy about it. I know about challenges in football game which you face constantly. And tonight it was after 3-1. Everybody, me included, thought that's it. And Benfica thought, let's give it a try. And I couldn't respect that more.
Well, he might respect it, and he can respect it because Liverpool are through 6-4 on aggregate. Absolute chaos at Anfield in that game last night because Benfica not only had the goals that they scored, but they had goals disallowed as well because they really worked that offside trap against them. I think something like half the goals they scored were offside and half were onside in that one. For Jurgen Klopp, though, he could make 7 changes. In terms of the back four, probably only Konate or Matip maybe will be one that would be a first choice, and even then they sort of flip-flop alongside Virgil van Dijk. So no Van Dijk, no Trent Alexander-Arnold, no Andy Robertson. Huge to be able to rest
It's
those
brilliant
three.
to be able to rest them. But remember that I think that people underestimate going to Benfica, excuse me, and getting that result, what they got, because that's enabled him to be able to do what he done in that game and rest those players. And then, of course, when you change that many players and integral players, it's going to be a little bit skewed.
Disjointed.
You know what I mean? It's going to be a little bit off key. But the fact is that, like you said, when it went to 3-1, you naturally think, yeah, it's done. But Benfica kept going. But at the same time, what they done in the first leg was enough for him to do what he's able to do. Yes, Benfica should have done better in the first leg, if I'm going to be totally honest. I'm not telling anybody...
They had a great second half, didn't they?
Fantastic second half. And what that will make Benfica understand is we've got to do better in the first leg. You have to. Liverpool got the experience to know we're going to go there. We've got to do something. We've got to get something because we could go home and this could happen. Could you imagine if they don't do what they've done there, Benfica does that? Come on, man. That's why the experience of these teams and the manager would have to get so much credit, and the players who came in, is because they'd done the job. And that's the main thing. They did the job. Yes, they had a couple of very close offside decisions, but Liverpool done enough in both ties to deservedly win that.
And for City, having had that tie against Atleti that they're going to draw upon, for Liverpool, conversely, you're looking at the fact that the rest may be helping them, that they're going to pick up again. That's what the positive outlook would be for them.
Yeah, absolutely. It's tough because both teams have got incredible squads of players. So regardless of which 11 are going to be put out, they're still going to be incredible. It's going to be a spectacle regardless. So I think the most important thing is the first leg, naturally. Same with the Man City game. The first leg was the one that, gave them the cushion ultimately. But I don't really know. I don't really know what either manager is going to do with this game coming up. It's going to be a
tricky
one.
The FA
tricky
Cup
one.
game, you mean?
Yeah, on the weekend, yeah.
I think you'll bring the 7 players back.
Absolutely.
I think, and I think that I'm making a point, but I'm almost asking the chaps at the same time as well, because last week's game, the points were involved. So you don't win. If you don't win, you just don't lose. You find a way not to lose. There has to be a winner this weekend. So does it affect the way you go into that match? Do you take more risks? Do you go into it maybe keeping it, trying to nick it? Or do you go for the jugular from the start? From our point of view as journalists, it's fantastic if we have a spectacle, if we have a situation where they're both punching each other, and seeing who's the last man standing is. But psychologically, I think for the players, I think Liverpool come into it fresher. And that was almost one of my other questions. Do you prefer as a player to have that momentum like Man United built up in 99, like Chelsea built up in 2012, where you have tough games all the way to your ultimate objective? Yeah. Or do you prefer to rest and then have those fresh legs to bring in?
I think you'd probably... I think I would want to have the games just tough continually, because then you're in the frame of mind where you're just going for the next thing. It's tough, but I'm going to go for it. Rather than you have that rest and it kind of takes you into a place where you kind of like, I don't think you want to be doing that at this stage.
You want to be switched on all the time.
Yeah, you want to be switched on all the time. You want to be in that headspace where, here we go again. We go again. That's what they write all the time. We go again. Come on. And I think that is because when you're in that frame of mind, and you're going for it, you know what I mean? At least you're attacking it, rather than you have this rest and you think, the rest kind of like took a little bit something away from them. Some players may want the rest. Some managers may say, the rest is good. But for me, I'd want to have the tough games all the way through, because then it just keeps your mind focused.
Because that is the danger, is as you say, losing momentum.
It definitely is. I'd much rather be sharp constantly, consistently, and not having to worry about being slightly off the pace or, worried, am I going to be able to get through the full 90? I'm not sure. I'd much rather give me the tough fixtures. And in that way, I'm testing myself against some of the best out there. And I know that I can overcome those hurdles. If I can overcome those, whoever's coming next, it's not going to be an issue.
Yeah, it's going to be really fascinating running. But the fact is, there's the momentum side of it, and then there's the keeping players fit side of it. So while Pep Guardiola may have lost, the phrase he used was we're in big trouble in terms of Walker and De Bruyne injuries particularly. Whereas for Liverpool, that hasn't happened in this game anyway.
Yeah, and they've got to be happy with that, Kels, because they're going into a period of the season where you want everybody fit. So if you're going to look at it from a point of view from a squad and a mental kind of aspect of confidence and maybe one-upmanship, then you have to say Kyle Walker and Kevin De Bruyne may be missing is a big, big thing for Liverpool. And you have to try and make sure that whoever's playing, you have to take advantage of the fact that those two players might not be playing. Because unfortunately for City, this is what happens when you get to this stage of the season. You may miss key players. And like Liverpool, we saw a few seasons ago, they got so many injuries. It just literally just stopped them in their tracks. It just happens. It's up to the City players now to try and fill the void of them two players, which is going to be difficult. But like you say, you can't legislate for injuries. You never know. Liverpool might put out their best team and they get a couple in the semi-final. You don't know what's going to happen. This is why it's so brilliant at this stage of the season.
I think the only player for Liverpool who is absolutely vital is not any of the forward players. It's Virgil van Dijk. If Virgil van Dijk plays, Liverpool are so much better defensively. He makes players around him better. It reminds me of Ledley King and Toby Alderweireld when he first arrived at the Spurs. Tony Adams at Arsenal, he organises. He's a leader. He leads by example. I think if you don't have him in that Liverpool side, they are there for the taking. And it then does become who comes out on top in terms of both teams scoring goals.
Is that because they operate in such fine margins?
Yes. Yeah. Yes, absolutely. I think as far as the City are concerned, I don't think not having Kyle Walker is a deal breaker. I still think they're strong. I think what it might do for City is it might maybe dictate whether they will... The thing about City is they impose themselves on every game they play, no matter who the opposition is, whether they're home, whether they're away. They do not park the bus. They go out there and they express themselves. Will they do that against a side as accomplished as Liverpool are? Because if you try to open up, Liverpool will attack the space and they will kill you.
Well, we saw that. We saw that the other day in the way that Liverpool scored so quickly after they scored. Simply because that's the thing what makes City go, oh. Because City do not change the way they play. And it's that City are almost saying, well, try and attack us then, see what happens to you. But Liverpool, they answered so quickly to the goal. That's what will make City go, oh, we've got to be careful of Liverpool. And it gives them a little bit of doubt.
Because if you look at the Mane goal, the way that Mane scored, he comes inside between the full-back and the centre-half to race onto that ball that they play between the two centre-halves. So if you don't have a Walker who at least would give you a chance of being switched on, how do you deal with that? And that's why I don't think there'll be a change in the way Liverpool play, but I just wonder how City will approach it. Will they be more cautious, or will they go out to impose themselves again?
I think they might tell Ederson to get off his line a little bit quicker in instances like that. And we know that he likes to play almost like a sweeper keeper as well, which is a phrase that we've not seen or heard for a long time. But we saw it last night. He's not afraid to come off his line and really get up the field as quickly as he can. And he's so calming and composed in possession as well. I think Pep will be quite happy with him doing that.
Mind you, even then, Trent Alexander-Arnold had that long-range effort, which if he'd hit that the way he wanted to...
normally.
And then that might give Ederson, it might give Manchester City a bit of pause for thought.
He'll think about it because obviously, because Trent's tried that, they've seen that that's something that can be tried. So they'll be checking him out as well. So they're checking out if he does come out. Another way that they'll be able to maybe hurt City. And the fact that he tried that, Kels, is enough for them to say, well, they know.
Do we think this game at the weekend, the FA Cup semi-final, is going to have a knock-on effect in the Premier League race? You've got both sides now in the semi-finals of the Champions League. City have got Real Madrid. Liverpool have got Villarreal, which sounds like an easier opponent, but then you have to remember they've knocked out Juventus and Bayern Munich in all of that, and are masterminded by Unai Emery, the European specialist. But when you look at the game at the weekend and the sort of effect that could have going forward, is it a big one, or is it just one of those ones that's on the path?
I think it's a big for the ultimate goal, simply because whoever can win it and continue to go into these tough games and continue to win. These games, like I say, are going to be the ones that you look back on and say, my gosh, we've done that and we won those games. And it's one of these teams, like Darren rightly said, is going to have to win this game. They could draw that one in the Premier League. Someone's going to have to win this game. That gives you the edge somewhere along it. And at this stage of the season, with these two teams being so close in the margins, it's all the small margins now. Yeah. So whoever wins this game is going to have the edge for what's going to come after.
One team going for the quadruple, one team going for the treble in this game.
Amazing.
Yeah, it's getting to this stage of the season. Although Chelsea and Crystal Palace in the other semi-final will have plenty to say about that, as will Real Madrid and Villarreal in the Champions League. But Manchester City take on Liverpool.